In 1987, my experience with arcade games to that point had been very limited. When the shows would roll into town twice a year, I would make the most of it and see what games were on offer that would take my money. Or I could play whatever game my local chip shop had. And in March 1987, the owner had replaced Green Beret with this forgotten classic, Rolling Thunder by Namco. I didn't get a lot of time to play this gem, as my parents had decided to move away from the sunny streets of Govan to a neighbourhood that was a lot quieter. But it was a game I was really taken with. The player controls Albatross, a member of the World Crime Police Organisation's Rolling Thunder espionage unit. Albatross's mission is to save a missing female agent named Layla Blitz from a secret society named Gildra, located in New York. The player begins the game armed with a standard issue pistol, which can be replaced with a submachine gun that allows for continuous firing by holding down the shoot button. The player can find ammunition for either weapon by entering doors which are marked bullets or arms. If the player runs out of machine gun ammo, they will switch back to the pistol. However, if the pistol runs out of ammo as well, then the player can only fire a single slow chaser bullet on screen at a time until more ammo is acquired. The player can only take 2 physical hits from the enemy, as a single hit drains half of the life meter. The player is killed instantly when struck by a projectile attack, such as enemy bullets or lasers, when the time runs out, or when falling without a floor. The main enemies are hooded soldiers known as maskers. Their various outfits and colours determine their strength and attack pattern respectively. Some maskers only throw grenades, and others will shoot while kneeling. Other enemies include ninjas, mutated bats, panthers, shrieking yellow creatures, and lava men. At the end of the final stage, the player must battle the Gildra leader, Mabu, to rescue Layla and complete the mission. I always thought that the main character looked a little like a version of James Bond, with his turtleneck jumper and over-the-shoulder gun holster. And that's the thing. The visuals on this game were astounding for 1987, and a real leap forward to the point that real detail could now be seen on the main sprite. In fact, the detail on all of the sprites was excellent for a game of this period. The animation on the walk was also really impressive, with this smooth strut and the arms going back and forth. And the way Albatross grabs a rail when jumping up or down, the attention to detail was outstanding. But when he walks down the stairs or steps, the stride changes and looks just fantastic. Namco could have just went with a series of small jumps here, but no. You can tell it's done right to get the best look it can. And when he shoots his pistol, the stance was a copy of Roger Moore's when posing as James Bond. And when he is equipped with the machine gun, you can see him tilt his head and aim down the barrel as he fires. I might be going on about this a lot here, but if you were around in 1987 and seen this playing for the first time, your jaws would have dropped too. The enemies are all nicely animated, and the maskers are all just palette swaps of each other, but the different colours help you identify the attack pattern when the going gets busy. The game also has these nice short cutscenes between levels, where the main boss comes in and barks orders at his minions, and they move back and forth to look productive, and even give this silly salute in unison, like a finely choreographed dance. The whole appearance of the game gave this indication of a carefully crafted product, and not just some rushed release in order to make a quick buck. In fact, the visuals in this game were such a departure from other games that came before it. With its bright colours and splendid animation, it looked like a Saturday morning children's cartoon. The sound is also done to a really high standard on this game as well. Each level starts off with this little jingle, like a signature tune for the character or franchise, and then the music for the level starts. The first few levels have this suspenseful thriller type of tune going on that sounds like it could have been lifted from an 80s sci-fi movie. And the later levels have this slower, more sedate kind of tune, like from a detective TV show. The sound effects from the gunfire let this side down a little. Don't get me wrong, it's a good sound effect. It's just a little quiet, that's all. And the sound on levels 3 and 4 when Albatross is walking on the gravel sounds more like a crisp, freshly laid snow stomp. But to be honest, these are really minor niggles. The gameplay is superb. Very challenging, highly addictive, and lots of fun. The action takes place over a single plane, but the player can jump up and down between levels and go through doors to get ammo and extra weapons to help with the task at hand. The amount of different enemies on the screen can cause for some real frustrating times, as you need to shoot the enemies while avoiding being shot, so you can be ducking and shooting and then jumping up really quickly. There are 5 stages, but when you do the first 5, you have to repeat them, albeit they are a lot harder second time round. But Namco had decided to give some help to the player, and on a motherboard for this game they included a dip switch that allowed for a level select to be activated on the title page. That allowed for the player to skip past the first 4 stages if they so desire. Unfortunately, the one I played at my chip shop did not have this feature enabled, and so I had to play it from the start each time. This was also the first game that my chippy charged 30p a go for, but I didn't care. I loved this game, and I was gutted I only got to play it for a few weeks before I had to move house. But I was certain a game of this calibre would be making its way over to the home micros, and so I waited and bided my time for its release. It took 2 years to come out, but was the wait worth it? Absolutely not. This is one dreadful conversion of a great arcade game, and really showed that it was either time for the Commodore 64 to get upgraded, or that maybe Namco had created a game that was so far ahead of its time it would not be possible to get a decent version of it in the home anywhere. Looking at the visuals, they looked terrible, and when the C64 was capable of producing some great looking games, such as Impossible Mission or Summer Games, it was hard to accept that this was the best visually the developer could come up with. But then again, it was ported over by Teartex, a pseudonym for rubbish in the world of home micros. The smooth walk of Albatross from the arcade was well gone, and on a Commodore 64, he was walking like he'd crapped his pants, and he was trying to stop it running down his leg. And then the jump, the float, looked like a deformed Superman, and the fancy pose when he shot was also gone, and so was the speed of the game. The arcade was fast and smooth. This was slow and stodgy and awful. The backgrounds looked like they were rejects from the Tetris game, as everything is just a bland, drab box. It's just yuck. The sound, well, actually, I didn't have many complaints about the music. You can tell the arcade tune is in there somewhere, and the SID chip does a decent attempt at it, but the other sound effects are horrendous. The gunfire sounds like he's chapping a door or flapping a letterbox. But the gameplay is the biggest letdown here. With only one button to fire and jump, the controls are a little awkward, and with the slow, repetitive nature of the gameplay, it makes the game very boring. In fact, this is a terrible port of a great arcade game, and I was so disappointed when I got to play this game. A game I had waited almost 2 years to play. And the worst thing about it too was the fact I had told my mates that it was a great game when I played it in the arcades, and they didn't believe me after playing this tripe. Rolling Thunder was an unbelievably great arcade game that inspired Sega to produce the mighty Shinobi. I am in no doubt of that. But the home port on the C64 was awful. I haven't played other versions, but I have been informed they're all rubbish too. Please do give Rolling Thunder a go on the arcade. I think it appears in a few of Namco's arcade collections, and if you can't find it there, you can always find it on emulation, and I encourage you to give it a go, as you will not be disappointed. And that was my look back at Rolling Thunder. Do you agree with my opinions? Please feel free to leave a comment or two below, and maybe even a thumbs up and a sub if you're that way inclined. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching.